Hello, everyone, and I'm really pleased to be here today to talk about digital transformation and what it has meant to the British Parliament. Um, I'm going to talk about Parliament's digital journey since 2015, when the Parliamentary Digital Service was formed, forming a digital strategy for Parliament for the first time, and what that has meant at Parliament and how that has helped us as digital professionals. The impact of COVID, can't avoid that one, and the next steps for Parliament, including our plans for a digital operating model. So the Parliamentary Digital Service was formed in 2015 in response to a report from an organisation called My Society, which flagged that Parliament perhaps was lagging behind and didn't have a lot of the more modern digital disciplines, such as user research, user-centered design, and had a website that was very old and not very user-friendly. So in response, Parliament moved together its IT team with its website and intranet service and formed the Parliamentary Digital Service. And to do that, we needed to recruit people into that new structure. And then the first task for my predecessor, Rob Gregg, was to develop a digital strategy for Parliament for the first time. This was very significant because it meant that Parliament had a statement of its digital ambitions rather than a business plan for its IT team. And that, of course, was across the House of Commons and the House of Lords, which are separately managed structures within Parliament. Those digital ambitions were worked through with an awful lot of stakeholder engagement, sessions for over 300 colleagues and members across both houses. And the outcome was a strategy that was about the core work of the two houses and how the houses could use technology to meet their user needs and do things better, with the overall aim of excellent digital services for a modern Parliament. The strategy was 5 years and it set out Parliament's ambitions in those areas, and we attached to it a number of principles about how we would work, like being user-led, being open, etc., to help us to deliver to that strategy. So what have we achieved so far? There's been a huge amount of change in Parliament in the last 5 years, some of them incredibly visible to our customers. So for instance, we introduced Office 365 across the parliamentary estate and to all users. And we also introduced mobility. So 2015, probably most people had desktops, and we introduced mobility and a lot more laptops and ability to work more effectively in different places and from different locations, with Wi-Fi being and still being a hot topic in Parliament. There's lots of constraints in very old heritage buildings, but we've had an ongoing programme to improve that, to mean that people can work better from wherever they are. We also moved from Parliament's legacy copper telephony system onto Skype for Business, meaning that people could take phone calls wherever they were. So that technology was really the foundation that gave the tools for people to work collaboratively from any device and theoretically in any location, something that was to prove useful last year. We also had a very high priority to deliver a new website for Parliament, which we have done. It is much more accessible, it meets accessibility standards, it's compliant with those. It also has taken what was millions of pages and an awful lot of historic content and represented it in a way that is more accessible to the public and to our users. Within the team, we needed to work on how we were going to work together. And the key foundation of that was our values, which are care, community, confidence, and curiosity. And those values are weaved into everything that we do, and they are the Parliamentary Digital Service values. And we really embedded those in the last couple of years, actually. To be honest, I think we had a full start right at the beginning where we launched the values, but we didn't really embed them and weave them into everything we were doing. So people might have been aware of them, but they perhaps weren't impacting their day-to-day lives. So after 2 years, when I took over, we relaunched them. We did some community and care and confidence and curiosity days where we had speakers and people talked about what that meant to them. And then we made sure that they were embedded in everything that we did. That really helped us when the pandemic hit. because for Parliament, that was, as for many businesses, a huge challenge. And a year ago, I and colleagues would have been incredibly busy working through with our broadcast colleagues and NEP, Parliament's broadcast partner, how to enable Parliament to become virtual and then hybrid with only a couple of weeks to achieve that. And also working out how to switch on its head all of our services, because we've always supported in the Parliamentary Digital Services constituency offices across the UK, but all of a sudden we were having to support a huge number of people working remotely. And also, obviously, everybody in those constituency offices weren't in their offices either. We had the normal challenges of people not having kit with them, people not necessarily particularly having good broadband or knowing what to do with that. So we were very proactive. We certainly shipped more items than we ever have before in order to keep people connected and able to work. We had a proactive contact team for members of both houses to make sure that they were able to connect effectively, because obviously we knew that when Parliament returned after the Easter break, they would be connecting pretty much most people remotely and participating in a very different way to what they'd been used to. And then we built out more services that were needed. So first of all, remote voting capabilities for both houses, doing that in a secure way through our member hub, which we already had in place for people to table questions in the Commons, etc. And that enabled very crucial votes to take place whilst most members were not able to be in Westminster. And we then rolled that out into the House of Lords, and they are still using that. Most members of the House of Lords are still remote, and they are still using that system today. In the Commons, as things moved on and restrictions slightly lessened, they wanted to move from a remote voting system to an electronic voting system, which Parliament had never had before. Quite famously, Parliament has 2 division lobbies, and people used to go past and give their names and then go to the tellers and they were counted. But that wasn't going to be COVID safe. So we worked with colleagues to enable electronic pass reader voting. And a system of proxy voting was introduced for those members who needed to continue to shield or not otherwise be at Westminster. So throughout the year, we've really iterated and built on that principle that we will do so, because we are continuing to respond to what is needed. Behind the scenes in the last year, we've also been working on a programme to transform the way digital services operate in Parliament. It's the next steps on from that digital strategy which we delivered. The catalyst for that work was a review in 2019 as the digital strategy was entering its final year. And that made some wide-ranging recommendations for Parliament's overall digital direction, including establishing a digital operating model across the whole of Parliament. And our work so far has focused on understanding Parliament's digital ambitions in the next 5 years and how we might deliver our digital services in a better and more cohesive way. Obviously, things like rolling out Teams across our 10,500 users and doing all those hybrid Parliament things have meant that our timelines have changed a bit, but we are making good progress. And I was moved into a refocused role as Chief Digital and Information Officer last October, a recognition of that partnership and board level across Parliament being a key aim and objective of the next stage and what the digital operating model will deliver, because it's introducing a new strategic partnership and ensuring that that ownership and accountability for digital sits across both houses and their operations and isn't solely vested in their delivery partner for digital services. That really is a recognition that all successful businesses have digital at their heart now. By doing that, we'll increase the number of people who can contribute to digital services and feel ownership of them, and we'll improve satisfaction levels with those services from our member customers, staff, and the public. We want to exploit the value of data and digital at Parliament and ensure that in doing that, we're being complementary to Parliament's traditions and its culture and its ways of working. And we want to begin to innovate, to work collaboratively with industry and academia to exploit the untapped value of digital assets. And if you want to see some early signs of that, go and look at Hansard at Huddersfield, which is a project we're doing with Huddersfield University around Hansard, the written report of both houses. As this programme moves ahead, it will absolutely be key to its success to identify and deliver what Parliament wants from digital now and in the future. But we aren't planning to have another digital strategy for Parliament. What we have moved on to as a maturity step is understanding that both houses' strategies, because there's a strategy for the House of Commons and the House of Lords, needs to have absolutely baked into it that ambition. And that gives the top-down board level prioritisation that will enable Parliament to have really good discussions about where it is going next on that digital journey. Some things are uncertain. We don't know how much of the hybrid and virtual houses will continue and what aspects post-pandemic people will want to keep. And there will definitely be aspects that people don't want to keep. Certainly at the moment, obviously, as I've said, most lawmakers are remote from Westminster. And I think that they will look forward to the day when that doesn't have to be the case. But there are some gains that have been made and changes that will no doubt stick politically. And we will be there to enable those because, as I often say, digital isn't an end to itself. It's there to open eyes to possibility and to allow Parliament to be that modern Parliament that it wants to be. And the COVID pandemic, although not something anyone would wish on our country or the world, has certainly opened eyes to possibility of what digital can deliver to the UK Parliament. So it's an exciting time. Thank you very much.